right here in Newport at the VX plant. That went on for a long time. And in terms of who's responsible, the company is responsible for everything that happens. We're going to have to put a fund together that's $35 million. We also have the EPA, which will stand behind the permits that they grant. And finally, the DNR, which regulates all the pipelines. So it won't be the county's responsibility for any of these things. So not only are you not responsible in terms of any potential risks, but you're not really responsible for the authority that we're seeking. So that's all I had, and I'd be happy to answer questions and invite people who, as long as you believe the science, you don't have to trust government. Well, I mean, if you don't believe science, it's hard for me to argue the case. But
Greg, I want to understand.
Yeah.
We deal with things that are very important to the county, and this is one of our major issues. We as a county have been ran over on this, I believe. There's been no input. We got a little bit of input support from one or two people around here, which was not the majority from the beginning. Number two is when we're dealing with things that are of public interest of this, if you come to a meeting, I understand you come, you have a right to come to a meeting, but when it's a major issue like this, from now on, I think we need to make sure you're on the agenda. Because I think of this magnitude, people have a right to come, they have a right to see, they have a right to ask questions. So from my standpoint, next time if you come, please make sure it's on the agenda to speak, so it can be, it's public knowledge.
that's probably my fault. I didn't see it posted. So it must be.
But the issue I think you're saying today, to just put it in plain English, that you guys gotta set laws, if we don't abide by it, then we got problems, that's what you're saying.
Not really. I think I would put it this way. In speaking with your own lawyers, so I'm not here to give legal advice, but in speaking with your own lawyers, models to see where you have the authority. So it's a state, we have pipelines throughout the county. They're all regulated by the state as a public good. These injection wells are all regulated by the state and federal government. You've never been asked to approve a pipeline. You've never been asked to approve an injection well. So consider where your authority is to do this. And again, you're not responsible for it. There's no potential damage.
We as elected officials still responsible for the safety of people.
I understand.
Regardless.
All right. Well, happy to answer questions at another date, maybe.
Thank you. Let's be order. Order. Anybody else want to move on? We didn't mean for this to turn into a major discussion, that you do have a right to speak, and I will always, 3 minutes, last one, we got to move on.
I just got one question. The enterprise civilian $30 million or whatever, you guys will not be responsible for any accidents or whatever, I'd like to make sure that's in writing. And if there is an accident or something major happens, both goes to the aquifer or kills those people coming up the ground, $30 million doesn't seem to be much. Those fires are putting on water for those areas. So I just wanted to make sure you guys look at that.
That'd be something for us. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to close this and go on with our normal meeting. New issue extension contractual service. All right, you can hear me. Agreement approval for 2025. Anyone have an issue with that?
I do have a couple of questions, and I haven't received from the Lori engineering. I don't think that's acceptable. I was supported it. I will make motions to pass the extension. contractual services agreement with the new, and the government,
Second motion?
Over. Set discussion? More discussion
I did ask for some supporting information for it, but it's not necessarily germane to the contract itself. Peter supports the value
on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Health Department, Dr. Margaret and Lily Farley. Today. There we are. There she is.
Morning.
Morning.
So I have a couple of things. I'm just gonna hand out to you the quarterly report from last quarter for your perusal at your convenience.
It's all right until.
Thank you.
And the main reason we're here today is to seek approval for the amendment to the tattoo ordinance to regulate eyelash extensions. Mr. Burr and I worked on this together, and instead of being a complete separate ordinance, it's just an amendment because most things are the same between the two as far as what's required, as far as facility and the rules against spreading infection. There's a difference in the training, and this would apply to not people that are in a salon or are estheticians or cosmetologists, but somebody who just in their own home would be applying eyelash extensions. And that's the purpose of this amendment, to regulate that.
I haven't read this yet, but this will be the first reading. You're saying that you're regulating individuals in their homes?
If they're performing eyelash extension services.
To their
Yes.
person or to others?
I'm sorry,
To their own person or to others?
to others. If they're charging for the, you know,
If they're-
as a business. It's a requirement of the state health department for us to have this.
You got any problems with any of this?
No. I mean, I think that you should be protected from getting a communicable disease anywhere you go to get an eyelash extension. I mean, it is, you know, you're dealing with the eye, which mistakes can be critical, and, you know, there are lots of potential, if you don't follow the procedure exactly, as far as sanitizing and, you know, cleaning and the proper procedure, and make sure you have the proper certification before you do it. Just don't go in and say, hey, let me try this. So I think that's important for the safety of anyone who might be getting those done.
First reading for the.
You want to approve the first reading, or you want to go to the second reading?
I'm not ready to approve this on
Okay.
this, pass this reading.
Put that on for the next meeting for approval. All right, what you heard?
Yeah, that's fine. Give me a little bit to review
Let's
as
get
well.
to read it. All right, what's,
Did you have any other,
yeah.
two of you have any other questions?
I didn't off first glance at it now, but I guess maybe a slight one. So how will the health department, like say I want to do eyelashes in my house and I don't really have, how will you know that I'm doing that? You know, how will that, I mean, because I feel like it's
You'll
gonna be
have
tough
to
to
hear
regulate.
about it.
I was gonna say, I feel like it's gonna be tough to regulate.
As of right now, we know of no one who's doing it out of the home,
Yeah.
who's not a cosmetologist or something, or
Yeah.
an esthetician, but, I mean, it'll be word of mouth,
Yeah, I'm gonna say,
basically,
I
or
figured,
somebody who just wants to do the right thing.
and say, hey, I'm doing this, okay.
But this isn't coming, this isn't your idea, this is something the state sells.
No, this is across the state.
Yeah.
Put that on the agenda for the next.
And then, with that, we revised the fee schedule to include the eyelash, establishment and permit fees. And a couple of the fees changed on the shops, those are all highlighted in yellow, the things that have been changed, and then there's a copy of, the previous fee schedule, so you can compare.
Do you want to bring up the appointment for health officer?
On the generator,
Do what?
the generator.
Well, they got a health officer appointment on here.
Oh, Kay's got that.
Okay.
Okay, you want to compare?
You go, if you want to cover the generator, you want to do that.
I just wanted to know if you had any further questions about it.
No.
We did go initially, before we even sought any information, we did go have Mike Gibson, who is pretty much in charge of our building, come over, assess it, and give us the okay, but I understand we need it in writing.
The other thing would be best to also get you a maintenance contract on those generators. Whoever's doing it, get a maintenance contract with it.
Oh, we are, yes.
It's really important to have that.
They'll come
They're load
once a
tested
year.
every year and stuff, so.
And, Wendy said there was something about, if we take it with us when we leave, and that, our understanding of what we discussed with Mr. Gibson is that, if we move to a new location, it would go with us.
And he put that in writing for you.
We will.
Okay.
Actually, I think I addressed that, we're in the process of addressing that with this Union Hospital. It does have to be in writing, it is contrary to what our agreement is with the improvements that we make currently as far as the contract's concerned, remains with the property. They're probably, given the cost of this unit, the cost of removing it and installing someplace else is probably not going to be viable, but they did agree and we'll place that in writing, and we can take it with us, it'll be our option at that point if it ever happens,
Okay.
So I have my doubts that somebody would allow removing and
We hope they don't have to move, because we like our space.
It is a nice place. If anyone, no one's been there, go down to see the Board of Health on South Main Street. They've got a great facility there. Nice facility, nice rooms, and really been a big improvement for our county. You're doing a good job.
You're welcome to come and get a flu shot, tetanus, whatever you need. We take all insurances now, Medicare included, and also, I don't know if you've noticed, but we have been in every community out giving flu shots too. We have mailers sent out to everybody's home.
did a nice job.
Yeah.
Did you comment on the state coming in and having discussions with you, what was it, month ago?
It was on the 3rd of this month. Dr. Weaver, the State Health Commissioner, came to tour our facility and follow up with us, see what we're doing with all the money they gave us to try and improve things. And she was very pleased with what we've done so far. And just to let you know, we offer free CPR training. We offer free screenings for cholesterol and diabetes. We have a Dining with Diabetes class that we held about 3 times a year, where you actually come to the health department and there's an educator there and you cook a meal. It's a commitment of 4 weeks in a row for a couple of hours. That's available to you at no cost as well.
Don't fight the law for art, but she also providing some service or some services and methodology in which you're providing services where you need to for Marion County. And the state picked up on a couple of those things, and I think you'll start seeing roll out in other public departments throughout the state because of what you've done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Kay Smith, President of the Board of Health, and I'm here to give the board's recommendation of John Week for the health officer position. if you agree, there's a form that,
Well, this is a vote on, I guess that's all we really have to do today. Do what?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Health Board to appoint Dr. John Weed as the new health officer for Vermillion County effective January 1st, 2025.
I'll second the motion.
I think it's a very good choice. John's got local business locally there. He has a lot invested in the local community. And I hope all of you support it. So, call for a vote. All in favor? Approved.
I would like to say thanks to the Health Board. I know you guys interviewed several candidates, several in the county and maybe even a few out. And I appreciate you guys recommending somebody that lives here in the county and will represent Vermillion County. So thank you.
thank you.
Very excited.
Yeah, he is excited.
We are staff meeting next month and starting ski class.
And I'd like to thank Dr. Market for her service
Yes.
in the last years, I guess. And, appreciate all you've done. You've elevated, I think we've improved that health department considerably with your guidance. Thank you for your assistance.
Thank you.
Good luck with your retirement.
I ask each of you if you have something you really want to get on the agenda. Let's move everything up, and anything short we can do. Let's do it short. Just begin. We'll take just a minute break here to look at this. You guys any recommendations on moving things around?
Coffee break? I mean, I'm good, just
Let's keep
moving.
it going.
Yeah, I think we're,
You
yeah.
can just table those.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Good.
Generator approval, did we need to also?
They just need to submit it, there's not,
Okay.
they have the funding for it, and it is.
We got council.
Okay. We're all in favor of it. Just want to make sure we're doing it purposely.
Appreciate you bringing it forward.
Uh,
People didn't know it, as of last July, all contracts need to come through the commissioners, and there's other requirements that all the schools, if they want to provide a contract as far as license goes and so forth. So, basically, it's for capital equipment, so basically, it's anything over $5,000, basically needs to come in front of the commissioners before it's contracted for the,
John, that is the state law, right, that they changed. So it's not something we did, it's state
It's
law.
got the ambiguity that we didn't have, so it's given now, so it's, we don't have to question it anymore.
Next, we have proposed unified development ordinance and zoning map. Benny Carpenter, Peter Brad Johnson.
Thank you.
You guys should all have an electronic form as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give me your comment.
I'll speed read this real fast.
Ready? All right, so we've been working on.
So who are you?
Yeah,
Who do you
sure.
represent?
I am Brad Johnson with Brown Lewis Incorporated, based out of Zionsville. I've been helping cities, towns, and counties in the state of Indiana for the last nearly 30 years. Help revise ordinances, comprehensive plans, that type of stuff. Ordinance writing is really our specialty. That's what we do more than anything else. Every community is different. Every community's values are different, and what they're hoping for is different, so we come in with no expectation of how things are gonna go. We just try to listen and understand what the communities want. Some communities want major overhauls, start from scratch, think about every regulation as if it's never been regulated before. Other communities just want a light touch. In this particular county, we've taken a light touch to what you have. Even though the ordinance that you have in place, the zoning ordinance and subdivision control ordinance, are quite antiquated. It's pretty healthy for communities to revisit their ordinances, their zoning and subdivision control ordinances on a 5-year cycle at most. There's a lot of communities that revisit it more than once a year. or they're tweaking their ordinances. So going 40 years is not recommended, but that's kind of where we're at. So we're trying to update older ordinances to today's standards. There's a lot of evolution that's taken place in that period of time. Our state statutes have evolved, our case law has evolved, the way communities do business has evolved, the types of businesses that you're regulating, the types of changes in communities is evolving. So we're trying to bring that all up to date. Terminology has changed, so trying to get that up to date. Trying to make it read as if one person wrote it versus a little bit borrowed from this community, a little bit borrowed from somebody else. You know, just kind of the piecemeal. Sometimes that gets ordinances out of synchrony with other sections. We are trying to make the ordinances as user-friendly as possible in this process. So my goal always is to have the average citizen be able to pick up the document and find a conclusive answer to what they need to know for their property. You know, maybe it's, hey, we want to add a building to our property. How far does it need to be set back from the property lines? How tall can it be? That type of stuff. We want people to be able to find that without having to hire an attorney, without having to spend days reading through a document. If you really analyze what we've put in front of you, what's gone before the Planning Commission and before that a committee, there's only somewhere between 8 and 20 pages, depending on which zoning district. So if somebody's in agriculture, you don't have to read this whole book. Matter of fact, you're only going to really look in Article 2 and Article 5 for the vast majority of those questions being answered. And in some of the districts that don't have a whole lot of regulations, it's a total of 8 pages in this whole document that is applicable to that property. And like I said, in some, the worst case scenarios, there's 20 pages of regulations that apply to that community. The rest of it is definitions, processes, grandfathering rules, those types of things, the more legal technical side of things. So we really haven't taken major steps in adding regulations. I always, especially when communities have not revisited their ordinances, I always rather take a small step forward, you know, clean up the language, clean up the organization, clean up the terminology, get it up to date. But as far as the regulations go, just always take a baby step instead of a major step forward. Let's get the whole ordinance in good order before we start even considering stronger regulations. So with that being said, you know, there has been some changes. For instance, so I was on a committee years ago for on-site waste treatment, so septic systems. State of Indiana assembled a group of around 100 people from around the state, soil scientists, all types of people. And through that whole process, you know, part of what came out of that is the need for redundant systems, you know, space on land for redundant systems. So if one fails, to be able to have space set aside that's going to be preserved and be able to put in a new septic system. So historically, we were able to, you know, put houses on very small lots, but now needing to have that extra assurity that we have places to treat our waste, you know, lot sizes have increased in size. And so communities, counties, particularly around the state, have increased their minimum acreage for rural residential. It all, you know, and you all know this too, it all depends on soils, but on a broad sweep of things, the idea is to go from, say, 1 acre to 2 acre lots in rural areas. And this ordinance does reflect that. Right or wrong, that's what we did. So that's a small change. I've literally driven every street in the county, looked at aerial maps, looked at GIS, was looking at property sizes, and the vast majority of your properties in rural areas are that 2 acres and already. So, you know, that's an example of a change that was made in this ordinance. So evolution in how we're doing doing things these days, legal defensibility for case laws and statutes, trying to be more thorough. So there are holes in regulations sometimes. People just inadvertently don't know that we should cover little pieces here and there. One example that you may be familiar with in the solar farm regulations that you passed a while, not too long ago actually, but so battery farms or battery banks associated with those solar projects is becoming more and more essential. Your ordinance was silent on that, suggesting that that's not a component that would be permitted. We also just recently have heard that with the power plant north of town here, that they may be looking at a battery plant as well, to be able to not have to kick on the peaker plant. So if they can store excess energy there, then they don't have to fire up the peaker plant. So this idea of battery farms is relatively new. It's something that was not included in that ordinance. It's just something we added. And we went ahead and put regulations in this ordinance that suggest that it can only be, in the case of a solar farm, 25% of the land area. It has height limitations that are equal to or similar to what other height limitations are already in your ordinance. But that's a hole that we filled in this process. It was mentioned earlier, right to farm. It's not an act, but it is a page in this ordinance that we wanted to explore. It's not something that's in your existing ordinance. Having done a lot of county ordinances, we hear all kinds of stories and situations that have cropped up in rural areas, where a neighbor sells off some farmland, but it's adjacent to an existing farm, and the person buys a lot, lives out there, they put their well, they don't want it right next to their house, so they decide to put it off on their back corner. Well, now the adjacent farmer has to turn on and off their sprayers, and they're contracting that out, right? So people need to know where those wellheads are because they are not legally allowed to spray within proximity of that wellhead. So now the neighboring farmer cannot do what they've always been able to do for decades. All because somebody bought a lot and decided to live next to a farm. So our idea is that we ask that those wells, and again, on a 2-acre lot, you should be able to get 100 feet away from that property line somewhere and not impact your building site. And therefore, the farmer can keep doing what they've always been able to do. Another common complaint is drift, spray drifting onto their property, wipes out their bushes, wipes out their farm or their garden, vegetable garden, whatever that may be. We've asked in this ordinance for a 20-foot setback. It's not going to solve every situation that could possibly happen, but it is trying to get people to recognize that any kind of vegetation you put right on your property line is possibly going to be impacted by the agricultural operation next door. And then lastly, what a lot of communities are doing is asking for a waiver to remonstrate against common and ordinary agricultural practices. That does not include confined feeding operations. Any kind of confined feeding operation in this county, as this is written, would go to the BZA or would come in for a rezoning. That's the only two ways that a confined feeding operation can get established in the county if this ordinance is adopted. When we say they can switch from crops to animals, the animals, it says pasturage. So it's animals that are pastured, not animals that are confined. Confined feeding is defined as confined feeding is something that has to get special approval. So that waiver to remonstrate is just trying to get people to understand that, look, you've got an agricultural operation surrounding your property sometimes. They're going to be operating at night, especially if we start going more autonomous with our agricultural equipment. Those pieces of equipment are going to be running all through the night to bring in crops or to till fields, whatever it might be. So noise complaints, dust complaints, all of those things, we just want people to know that that's what they're moving in next to. We've had some communities that have gone to full extremes and just called agriculture industrial ground, just to try to get that point across, is that it's not just green vistas year-round. There is an operation that happens that needs to take place. We have not gone to that length. It's just a very basic right to remonstrate waiver for common and ordinary agricultural practices. So we've been at this for a little over a year. We've had a really good committee that we've been working with to really go into the nuts and bolts of it. We've been reporting to the Area Planning Commission from time to time. Last month, we had a quorum of the Area Planning Commission and had unanimous vote to certify this for adoption with a favorable recommendation. That then starts the process of adoption with the commissioners. Our state statutes are a little different in regards to zoning ordinances. The way it is actually written is that it has to be, any kind of changes have to take place at an area planning commission. They cannot take place in a commissioner's meeting, believe it or not. If you have changes that you want to make, it would go back to the area planning commission for them to hold a new public hearing on those changes. And then it would come back, they would certify those changes or modify those changes, whatever, and it would come back to the commissioners. The process also in our state statutes has a time limitation. I meant to look this up before driving here because I always want to make sure I have the number of days. I think it's 90 days that the commissioners need to take action on this ordinance, or it becomes law automatically without your vote. It's a really weird set of statutes that we've got. I don't want that to happen, and honestly, it's never happened that I know of anywhere in the state. That's definitely not the intent. What I want to emphasize is that any kind of public hearing on changes does take place at the Area Planning Commission, and they have to legally notify. In this particular case, because we're revisiting the entire ordinance, the enforcement and penalties section by statutes has to be in that legal notice verbatim, which we did, and it's a very, very long, it's the longest public notice you probably have ever had in the last 10 years. What we're hoping to do, if you do have recommendations for changes, is that to avoid having that republishing of this, an expensive republishing of that, is to adopt it as it is, to get that enforcement section locked in, and then make recommendations for changes at the Area Planning Commission to the ordinance that's in place, which this would be the one that's in place. And we would make the commitment to make whatever, work on making those changes as a version 2. That's just an option I throw out for your consideration. But honestly, I don't like to see communities throwing away a lot of money for legal notices. So any other changes that are made, let's say that this gets adopted and 6 months from now you want to make some changes. Those legal notices are very simple and very compact and don't cost a whole lot. This one is. That's always it always shocks communities what they have to do. There's conversation about the carbon sequestration. We have a fraction of 1% of this ordinance addresses carbon sequestration. It's a few paragraphs. We tackled it in a couple of different ways. Each one is a separate line item, so that if a judge does strike one of the sections, the other ones would still stand. Maybe one of them would stick. We don't know. This is all uncharted territory. I can give you an example of, so let's say 50 years ago, a power company got an easement to put in a lower voltage, transmission line. And then 100 years later, they come back and they now want to ramp it up to something much, much more significant. Full pylons, multiple lines. The question is, did that easement include the escalation of that? So when you approve that easement, it was just going to be some small poles and some power lines. There isn't, I don't believe there's case law that says that they can keep escalating, let's equate it to pipelines. A gas pipeline that's at 10 PSI goes in, and then years later it becomes a 500 PSI, and then years later it becomes 1,000 PSI. Or just because you gave them an easement, does that give them the right to keep escalating? We don't know. But right now, we've dialed in a couple things. One is just saying that due to the nature of super deep well injection, not knowing what's down there is that it's subject to possible failure or unexpected consequences. And because of the mystery of it and the science that cannot 100% prove what's going to happen at those depths, is that we have said that that land use is not permitted. It may stand, may not. We don't know. The second one is the pipelines. To the gentleman's comments about high pressure pipelines. Natural gas is transmitted at 1,000 PSI sometimes. I mean, that's an extreme case. They don't do that in all cases. But we've all heard cases of gas pipelines that have ruptured. I mean, we've had several here in the state of Indiana. I was in a community, helping a community in Michigan, where one blew in a downtown, and it bounced back and forth down the main street of the downtown, took out all the windows in this building, skipped one, went across the street, blew out all the windows, and just back and forth all the way down. Like every third building had all the windows and facade damage. The point being is that the higher the pressures, the higher the risks. So we think that at some point, communities should have a right to be able to say that that's too high. Again, we'll stand, we don't know. As far as I know, it has not been tested. Third one is heavy gases. So natural gas, you've had no say in where gas pipelines have gone in the past, but natural gas is a gas that goes up and into the atmosphere. It doesn't sit low, and it's not heavier than air. Gas is lighter than air. Carbon is heavier than air, so it settles. We're saying transmit all the product you want, but if it's a gas that's going to dissipate, fine. If it's a gas that's going to sit on the ground and is potentially, threatening of health or life, we want to say no to that. So we've kind of drawn three different distinctions of heavy gas, pressure, and just this extremely deep injection wells. We've been doing injection drilling for a long time, but the depths that are being mentioned are much deeper than what a common injection well is. So there's some nuance there that I think we're trying to play on. One of the things I bring up with the power and the gas examples before is that we do have agencies that regulate that, but it's pretty common and pretty, when state or federal regulations are silent, home rule, usually you can have a regulation that regulates things that are not being regulated by federal and state agencies. Again, I don't know. I've had cases where communities have asked me to write an ordinance for local building codes. So our state has a building code, and every city, town, and county's got to use the state's building code. But where that code is silent, and there's a need local municipalities, most communities believe they have the right to add additional building regulations. And I've actually seen communities that have successfully done that, and I've had communities that have not successfully done that. They've gotten remonstrated against by the state and local builders. Again, if it's silent, do you have the right to do it? There's cases that go both ways, and I can't predict which way these would go. What I've been told along the way, I personally don't have a dog in the fight here, right? It's not my community, I'm not gonna be the one living next to there, but I've heard over and over again that community, or people in this community don't support it, and they would rather have something in this ordinance that says we don't want it than nothing in the ordinance. And going down the fear route of what if we get sued, or what if we get told that we don't have jurisdiction. It's better to send some kind of a message than send no message at all. So that's what we've done. I cannot stand up here, I don't think any attorney or judge could even tell you how this would play out, but we felt like we should do something. That shows up in the environmental section. Like I said, it's no more than 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs of text in this whole document. So, questions that I can answer for you, anything that's...
Brad, I will definitely have some questions, but again, I've got to review, I've got that sheet you sent me yesterday, emailed me about 3 o'clock, that you said was like those 8, 12 pages. I've reviewed some of that, but there's just some questions that I haven't formulated all of them yet. I have some citizens that have asked me some questions about it that I will email those to you or to Penny or to the board and, and ask questions on that. Okay. So I get those in the next week and a half.
Yep.
It seems like we had problems with states' rights versus local rights. Here several years ago, when people came in and the support of the State House was, a lot of support was that we was going to take away local zoning rights. And we fought it as county commissioners, we fought it at AIC, and all came out against that. The state was trying to say that instead of local zoning dictating the setbacks and that for wind and solar, the state said that we're going to overrule and we're going to take your rights away.
Yep.
And that was fought when they seen it. And so what happened the second time with this carbon sequestration, it seemed like it was kind of clear on the radar and not vetted properly. I think anything that comes into this county, I know back when we changed from to paramedic ambulance service, we had the wind and solar come in here, and I met with them personally, and I said, anything you do in this county, number one thing is, we want to have 3 meetings, which we did, one north, one south, one middle, and everybody needs to know what we're doing. That's number one. The public needs to be informed. And I think that some stuff now today, I think that we're seeing more of a challenge between local rights and states' rights, and I'm a firm believer that people that live here know what's best. And I refuse to let that be overrated. In this situation, my questions to you and to the zoning board, so if this is when it goes to court, which it sounds like something like, will your attorney for the board represent this if it comes into a legal issue, or will the county have to do that as far as Harrison County?
So we do not stay involved in that capacity. I'm happy to provide support. But
That would be a board answer.
Yes. We've gotten involved in a support role only one time in the last nearly 30 years of me doing this work, and it was a case that was truly believed to be a loser. And actually, the 2 lower courts did rule against the county in this case. But their insurance company was willing to roll the dice, and we took it to the state Supreme Court and won. And that was a case relating to subdivision regulations, but we provided enough information to the state Supreme Court and argued the case successfully. And like I said, we've really changed. So where I'm going with this is that subdivision control regulations are supposed to be 100% ministerial, meaning that it's written in black and white, like the person has to do it, but it's not in there, they don't have to do anything. Well, there was a safety issue of school bus getting in and out of the neighborhood. They developed along the drive in the neighborhood in a dangerous location. The county was concerned that people pulling in and out of there, or school bus pulling in and out, and they're not seen by cars leaving out along that road. And we had written in a little bit of discretion that the zoning administrator can deny the location based on safety. And everyone thought discretion is not allowed in these types of ordinances. So we literally changed the landscape of allowing discretion for public health and safety purposes, where that had never been allowed out of that. And, you know, one of the justices specifically said it had to have, some people don't remember from most of these days, but he says specifically, you would have to have a phone size regulation just to try to, you know, look at every foot of the roadway in your county. Is this a safe, you know, place to put a driveway? Is this a safe place? Is this a safe place? It would be an enormous task to try to decide where driveways can and can't go from a safety perspective, that there has to be discretion versus this less document. So I think there's hope for your county as well, that if we can get this into the courts, that at least this is a big public event, and it'll get aired out about public court as well.
So all this is a working document as far as the issues which was passed with back suggestions and assistant process to changes like every
I am preaching an idea to hire me in 10 years is a lot worse than doing these small amendments along the way, where you'll never have to do this whole process again. And literally that's where communities save money is just keep fresh and go, not waiting. Trying to do it all until sales 20 years later, 10 years later.
Another question, and this is also integrated to our county's website where people, companies can access and say, well, we have these people, companies always want to come in here, and they don't know. And if they look at something that already says don't act, they already got some answers. You know, doing some work for trying to do. And this research I think you guys done would be a very, very good tool for, you know, companies coming in and trying to, like, farm,
So this is currently on the county's website, and after it's adopted, it'll be on the county's website as well. The zoning map is a virtual version on the county's website. Ideally, over the next year, that's digitized into your GIS system. So that's another step that would make it easier for people to look at your zoning map. Because they click on the parcel, and it tells them all the data about our parcels, also tells how there's zones. And then there, this document, like up to 2 pages, are two divided in them, and from there they can really find out everything they need to know about that zone street. Again, it should be a 5-minute search to be able to find it. I actually have. There are city attorneys, county attorneys that promote my company more than the company promotes themselves, because they just this ordinance style makes sense. And they're like they love what the community has this ordinance, they don't like what the community don't have this. So the idea is to make it as simple as possible, and everyone appreciates something on the legal side, also the person. Yeah. We always try to work with that. So you have a water that will print a map color here. I always, what I print on my laser printer looks one way and your plotter looks like we see something different. I've calibrated my machine, now that I know how it's on our machine and how it's shown on the computer screens, we can tweak those colors. And in the end, not only will those colors be enhanced for differentiation purposes, but the icons that use these ordinance will also have colors used on the map. So if somebody knows that they're bright yellow on the map, they're be looking for bright icons in this stock document tells them such apply to them. We want that to be as easy as possible. Map document.
And notice spend time reading that map to small stuff, so it's like nature at that town or city. We have one of our land county in their area anyway, basically rights. Did you take time on talking to commissioners and there and get that national board?
So the whole board did not sit in our meetings. They were invited to participate, just like the public was invited to participate. We had Joe Ellis was on our committee. He's one of the board members there. And I believe he was communicating with the board members along the way. The map that's strong today reflects the roughly 1,200 acre dividends that's likely going to become DNR land. That's the bad habitat, those green swaths on the map. We believe that is going to transfer to some order to highlight that happening. All the other lands is zoned, either commercial low frontage or industrial access, which is what is consistent with their master plan here currently. I know that plan has evolved a little bit over time, and what we're going to do with the land changes from periodically it has changed, but as of now, that's what we're going to do with the land.
One of the things that was discussed as basically we have some issues with that changing. How did that get out? Later on, I asked them to do it or take away, whatever they're going to get changed. How do you see that stuff coming down now? Is there any issue moving forward?
Our state statutes say the area commission is supposed to initiate changes to the ordinance. However, in the real world, it comes from multiple. It comes from the commissioners, sometimes it comes from citizens that want change. And sometimes it does come from staff, it comes from ABCs themselves. What I look for is BZA cases. If a BZA is hearing multiple cases, town of Cicero is a good example. We had dialogue on that maximum height for attached garages. I think it was 50 feet, and they had multiple requests by BZA next year for 18 foot. And they approved them all. And so we just went back and changed the ordinance to say 18 feet. So we'll be looking for that. I'm going to involve next year, be a resource for any for APCC commissioners answering questions. We do plan on making some amendments to this ordinance for next year. We need to. I mean, there's no crystal ball that tells us that we absolutely did everything right here. We need to use it for a while and learn from it, and with the commitment to you, the ABCC, citizens of the county, make sure that we're going to make those changes. The last thing we want to do is have somebody, if they could do something today, they want to still be able to do anything tomorrow.
So you
It is informal in the sense that there's no statute says that has to be used on a certain cycle. It is within how it's going to be.
You had to act on that as it didn't, and you, or it didn't have to act on it at all. And Commissioner just make what was it at that point.
I'm not familiar with that. Again, the traditional process is for the, I don't know cases where commissioners have overall just adopted something about the area commission being involved. So, yes. Yes. But it goes through proper channels first, and that fails, breaks down, and you have to have a final say. Yes. I think, correct.
We
find that the attorneys, claims and that everything you have to have in the court is legally sensible.
I don't see any attorney would want to say so. The thing is that, especially for courts, we've had cases that have gone before local courts that have overturned rulings against municipality.
Concept that these are the legal principle rules of place on that. I'm trying to bring forward rules. I'm trying to make this.
That's hard to change. The reality is that what's legal consensus is that all of this would be appealed to the court. There's no one to say would eventually lay out being sensible. Possibly. What we try to do is look at the law and strategies. There's just no how do we improve legal defensibility of ordinance? You say that constitutional knowledge those current statutes is just one example. Another is just again case law. So Rainbow rules is one that easiest got in trouble with. So they say that you've got a 5-acre junkyard, and the junkyard is 10 acres of land. They'll say, well, if you put it in, we've made that use illegal. But you can do it as your grandfather, but you cannot have an employee, you cannot have a car, you cannot have equipment that you use. Those are a shredder, anything. Courts have just why shut all of that down? Use was grandfather, and whether they expand and have cars, acres, they had lives before. They still have the right to that land use. So it's not about cars or what so you try to use some strategies that get rid of, not back, but the reality is every land use into a compliance situation instead of grandfather, big ordinance. Because we're finding that the banks are asking difficult questions that they never asked before. They're saying that it's this, before we loan money, we want to know, is this properly understand compliance with these regulations? And he's office gets called, she goes, well, it's not something that you say great-grandfather ever, Mark's great-grandfather was lost forever. That's why it's not. Not always, they are using loans because their grandfather.
I think,
Our goal is to try to get people not being grandfather.
I think y'all done a good job, excellent presentation, good material, very precise. With that said, I think that when you're passing the first reading, always bring it, and then we'll have a chance to comment, and then next reading, we will continue to improve that language and for passing as far as improving it. He's trying to time it. Well, no, it's not stuff. Go ahead, please.
We've done this systems, whatever they might be, traditionally, okay, we have done this system, sometimes there's like calculators, there's practice, it's not documents today. So, you go to a second system, okay, I have those. Or do we do?
Right. Zoom is not solve that by itself. What it's hopefully is a day one, make sure there's not land be okay with something. It's going to ultimately be up to our property owner to have a solution, whether it's sand or whatever. There's different technology sides that
Do we recognize them?
we do not spell out what they have to do. How our departments are ultimately responsible for they say how our departments make sure they have proper waste disposal on their site. And it may be a situation where it has to have that tank that has pump on a regular basis, and it takes a treatment. But that's ultimately not a zoning officer's role to help our department.
You stated that if the ordinance is silent, then it's not ready to use. That's a straight statement.
Yes, the way we reference this is that if a land use is not specifically identified as being permitted or special exception, then it's not. However, you do allow discretion by, so somebody mentioned, salon, eyelash, that's stuff. As new technology for services now, it still is so somebody comes in, they do not have eyelash extension, salon, listed. It doesn't mean that's not a permitted use. Penny's office, go, we allow a part massage, parlor, or whatever, in this district, and that very similar to something that you do in allows cases. So the structure has to be clearly similar to something that's permitted. Anything that is questionable, anytime our office can say, I don't want to touch it, I'm sending you they and then they were willing as well as similar. Yes. BZA have authority in two ways. One is possibly grant use variance, which counties have right to allow as an option. This county is not allow variances. But they can help make those determinations that oppose to be similar to the other uses of other options.
Sure, under rules process,
Or just the only that have that BZA.
We got certain, I'm reflecting on what happened when solar, that have bonding issues, or bonding requirements there. Not to take this, that was just an example. Do we have performance standards for any that have a requirement that have a standard, well, we actually find what those performance standards are?
So
Whatever might be.
the only, and I call it more like a decommissioning type of thing, is that what you're talking about?
Well, let's just take that, maybe easier ones, talk about specifics here. If we have the environment, we have performance standards, say how that would be enforceable.
To the degree possible, try to spell that out. I would want to spell that out. I feel like you need letting know the document like this as there is a situation you're talking about. It's always a good thing. Leaving things just right for failure of the board.
So there's a chance, the answer was, anything that has a penalty requirement or standard, there's a performance standard associated with it. Try this.
Yes. So just one example, these, trying to use this as a solar. So, you know, they were saying that there's no engineering firm that wants to certify what cost decommissioning should be 5 years in the future. They just don't know it yet. So we actually wrote an ordinance that we're going to use the average inflation rate in the United States. The average of the last multiple decades, we're going to use that as the multiplier. So the engineers come up with decommissioning costs today and multiply it out using a hard number. Because again, the point is specific costs. And then on the five site, which is visited, we figure out what the decommissioning cost that date and multiply it out. So we're never going to parse ourselves out.
Okay. Move on. We got a lot of time for questions still be submitted. We have, we're planning is here, probably what we'll do is always first reading. Make a public, and then people chance to respond, and then next meeting, put on the agenda to be voted and approved. So there's nothing wrong with laying as far as questioning anyone and whatnot, it's just a procedure.
There is that time clock that happens. Don't mention it. Just don't work inadvertently get past that point and people see points. I will submit that right up in the state statute. So I want to get through that. That's what
Was it the next meeting?
No, we're going to put the days, like I said. Meeting on November 4th from 6:30 to 9:90 a.m. November 4th.
The 90 days starts on
I think it's certification by we're not supposed to, even we're not supposed to do it, and like I said, I'd rather, we'll let you know, we'll mention that, and, you know, just ask that question, to make sure the process is what's the default.
Is there any portion of our current ordinance that wasn't containing any existing ordinance, or the proposed ordinance? The existing ordinance has, we scuttled, that's not in the ordinance. Same form or a different form?
That's come online at this point. I don't remember. It was scuttled.
Again, appreciate everybody involved. I know it's a big project, y'all, was involved in, and y'all,
Appreciate your being involved in that. I find that you've been helpful. Here's helpful.
I try. Like I said, I don't want to come in with any agenda. I would be, pushing things that I that I live in, but it's not where you live. I want to be, honored where my request. That's how it's been calibrated. We try to stay on the same thing.
How do you want to see the commission questions or the public questions? Do we wait for them to comment on the commissioners, or how we proceed there? How do we communicate their plan? To the director, to the president, to you?
Through the area plan email, and then you can also ask questions.
Copy your plan.
I think you have questions, certainly free to contact me through pending on the report or just for our office. Be happy to answer any questions. You're making requests for changes that has to should have an old
Okay.
Let's say you want to change that setback. Don't like what you suggested. We would have to take that change back to your commission. Have that whole public hearing, have to publish it. And then back to you that 40 number that we talked about, right? So that's the process and my hope is that maybe we could just block and then make those changes before you go or that's necessary. Make that's
What changes again? Where we have to go through the whole process again. It's not just a correction to verbiage. It's actually
material changes. Some sort. We just we're okay with making those types of changes. I know, for instance, take a look at the words in some sense. So the word that is misused or better words. We are making these types of changes. Page numbers, we can change that, but anything on content or even hints on content. I think we're already done. Yes. Any going 40 feet, 40 and a half feet with
We're gonna set it on for you.
public hearing, even for a small change.
So you get it.
Tim, I have one question. So the difference, so say the thing board voted on change 750 feet from 500. If the commissioner said, hey, we move 1,000, that would dictate change back. So what's the difference between say we adopt on November 4th? What's the difference between adopting, making a rule effective, whenever, and us asking the ADC to change that versus doing it now to where this won't be in effect? I mean, do we have any assurances as a board? Because I don't know some members, I don't know if they'll agree, but once it's in effect, could they say, no, we're not going to change it? So the only.
My read on the situation is they want to work with you.
Yeah. So if there was small things that found we really want changed, to get them changed, we would send back before we passed, if we wanted assurance they would be.
You can hold that over.
That's what I was at, yeah. Yeah, I understand. That's a little county spending. Well, yeah.
So going over the ACC as the idea of we want to get rid of solar ordinance. You're probably going to have objection.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
For a change from the 750 to 2,000.
Well, I mean, coming next meeting, maybe bring it to him, a lot of constituents really want something changed, two or three of us are, hey, we want that change, and they real guarantee have the change, send it back, and then.
You can, as I was saying, you can initiate that.
Yeah, that's what I said. Okay. When's Several. Yeah.
The main thing is representing this document to be approved, and it's also something to be, some change in the proper procedure to do it.
To be honest, there's so much stuff in here that no one wants to fight for 1% change, either fundamentally. It just doesn't make sense. Like, let's go beyond 90%, everyone is on Sure. And not just honestly, we're going to learn that. Let's say the plan doesn't like something you're proposing, which just don't see that ever happening. They go ahead and say yes to it, and over the next year, you're going to learn, they're going to learn if that was the right choice or not. And it's still the same process after, we're going to revisit this, and just make a decision year from now. Was that the right call, or was that not the right call? And so, either decision is a good decision, it's working on our change.
There's no showstopper. We have no showstopper. Things that all change.
Not like I said, I've read 210 pages, so, you know, I don't know about I'm not I mean, just 750 was one thing that we debated in the DC meeting was maybe getting into a quarter mile or something like that. Yeah, 750, and the only thing would have been, well, I don't know, it may have been less, I don't know, yeah.
We don't have anything significant that we know of.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
You done a very good job. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on down. As soon as it's done. One question I do have to the board is, my question to the board is, in defending the actions of your board, will your attorney represent and defend those actions? That's what we have. We need to know what something happens, how is this going on?
Our goal, and if it continues on, I believe that's like John's role, so. Is that how that goes, John?
Probably the commissioners want to see this on another board. So probably the and that kind of change.
Because it's adopted ordinances.
And then you guys are can be the ones that you fundamentally are this business.
And we get sued, that's part of it. We're going to public comment, raise your hand, have a chance to ask that question, so I'm trying to go through this. We've got some things here I'll probably go through I'm going to slow down and skip some of the stuff if you don't mind. Highway superintendent, Clyde, can we come further on that? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion on that?
What was the amount? I don't have it in my packet. So 1,600.
How much? Okay. Anyway,
I'm by agreement, I'm all right with that.
Okay. One person vote on it. Just make sure.
Fine.
That's done. Wait on the roads, Brett had different from the The conversation we had with Red Road is our policy to discuss this.
So I'm discussing that around the ordinance.
I have looked over it. Is that something we can do?
No, I'm still waiting on Mike to hear other recommendations.
Okay. Put that on the next agenda, right, guys? Okay. Wait, let's table that for the next meeting. County Home Side, we need to let that go. Cell phone cost policy, we won't. Do we want that, right?
Yep.
Union Hospital, we do have. Okay. Put that back on the agenda. The courthouse, roof replacement, I think that's, we don't provide all that information yet for the Terry. Can we send a letter to him some way and ask him to have that later in the meeting?
Terry?
The roof replacement, I didn't know. Just put it back on the agenda for the next meeting. County status, that's something you guys will work, right? Am I right? Credit card, debit policy. Anything there, or we'll table next? The automatic time sheet, county anything say about that, sure.
This is all ambiguous issues.
Okay. We'll put it back in the same. Public vendor, RJ, or come across.
Still being worked on, so.
Is there any time we need to have that done by to?
I don't think so. I think it's retroactive. I spoke to someone in another county, or state or something. I don't ride it, but they literally go, back to.
We'd like to get that done by the year, to get that done by the year. Let's start here.
Yeah.
If you have any
progress.
I think your slide information.
Yeah, John gave me stuff on that.
Construction costs, Emma Silly person, talked with, our insurance company, they say they have it ready by the end of the need. If we want to go that route, once you bring what we're talking about the city Clinton, a tenant agreement.
I think we need to use what it's done.
Okay. We'll table it.
I'm not in basis of
Okay. Internet service, the garage one, I don't know what. I do know, I signed a paper for internet service providing. Okay. Okay.
They've had some limitations for CCP, but it should be
Workable. Yeah. Which way to pay for the cost installed, originally was astronomical. So you guys over there, that's fine. District 3. Right. District 3 is 800%.
I looked at consolidation of all county governments and association. Now, those are interlocal agreements, ones who are not, they township fees, the fire departments, we'll give you a bill here, and then send the charge now, or not down, but they're looking at the cost of that, if we consolidate, doing part or whole, or anywhere, that joint might be a better deal on, like, and then on our rate basis. That's what it was.
Okay, we're all in agreement, this project, Road 3, since the process is done, announcements concurring ban, effective 10/8/2024. We'll revisit this again after 11/4. Move time change, commissioners meeting, November 4th meeting, moved from 6:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. The December 3rd meeting, on the 3rd, third, and then from December 2nd, and 9:30 a.m. So that's what it's going to be for the move.
And it's supposed to be on, that's the fourth Tuesday?
One thing I do want to say, we just started a Lost and Found Facebook page for pets and animals, dogs, cats, or whatever. Encourage you all to join that. I'm trying to do a network when we can best. I went through a very serious sad times, and those are my dogs. I still on around. Other people have had that same issue, and I think if we all come together, we can do great things. So that we can partner. Everyone knows what's going on. Get on that Facebook page. You might be able to find someone's dog or cat or something. The sheriff's department's providing information on how to lost animal on there. So if you want to help, I think we're all animals touch everybody's life. It's rough and lose, so we're trying to do something that will be a positive thing to help other people in case of loss. So with that being said, Commissioner, one word, and then have a closing comment.
Yeah, I do want to bring up, I didn't see it on here, we talked about an improvement Mike's last night, economic development, maybe wasn't on there. I know it was emailed.
Yeah,
I don't know. I know we were, I think last meeting, we all talked to her again. I don't know if that's been done or any meetings set. Yeah, but I do think that's that you need to discuss, we need to address that. If you guys read that email.
I don't have a problem with the visit we made. The same made previously.
So what was the, bring that up, was it 12,000? Okay. Yeah. I just knew Matt total amount was well.
Going back to that.
What was the comparison? Anybody have that from Lynn? Lynn, was the timeline about the same? Okay.
I would still make it.
Okay.
Well, I think we have a meeting for her, let her know what we expect, and she expects that, and we can get some type of agreement or state that this is what we have.
Yeah, no, that with Mike, yeah. Are we going to bring that stipend there and talk about potentially more, or what do you guys mean? I was understanding that probably similar where Lynn was at, I understand what your experience, but I do know that help not drop bombs on several projects, help keep things afloat, say. So is there any discussion about that?
I have no problem doing this. I just think we need to get with her and say what we expect and, how we're going to have some conversations. And part of that would be sort of certification in the next 90 days or what, again, same qualification, same thing. Well, right now we're doing the pay thing. That's what I'm saying, we need discussion.
I think the minimum you decide on the stipend, whether the level's fair, or we feel that, I mean, that right there is cut out base number, the numbers. But if we feel 15,000, we feel 18,000, we need to come agree on that. Unless you want to meet with me and discuss this, I mean, no here today, discuss that administratively. But yeah, I think even like I said, it would make a great development. That's another discussion. If we're going into that area, we'll get that later date.
I think the main thing we need to approve the funding that we have in mind, and then have a meeting with her and address that with next meeting, what I would like to do. That's what I prefer. The funding is just a question, the way I understand it.
I would like to, at the minimum, recommend 15,000, and Lynn was given, I think Amanda has went above and beyond, carrying that office, whether it's Rise project, whether it's small businesses, whatever she's been doing, she's helped keep that part together. So if there is support, I would like recommend like $15,000 to be paid out on time to Amanda Heber.
I'll second that. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We'll schedule that meeting. Okay, we're done. Closing comments. We've entertained for several hours today. 3 minutes. What?
I was saying thank you for listening to us. I want to say thank you guys. I always say, I feel like lawyers, but I always understood the law to federal guidelines. They're set, and then there's downtown state. That's kind of the minimum. The state can impose more safety. That goes down to the local level, and the local level can impose more safety. You can't stop. Like the alcohol test. But you can another thing you mentioned, VX. That was government, it's private, for-profit company. That's a big difference for me. Another thing is, they talk about high pipelines, all regulated. That's not true. Tim's still looking at the guidelines. It's not regulated, the guidelines of what we have, real life problems. So Flint is working on those, and it probably will not pass until next year. And Illinois did put a moratorium on any CCS. They realized the problem. They're trying to check offer there. And the science, we do believe science. We believe in both sides of science. I just science, I believe it. But I also believe science shows the process. And there's no turning back if such justice happens. And that's what we're concerned about. Because it's not for me, I'm old. But from a kid, that's what it's about. They want to be a good neighbor. They say that we want it. They say a lot of things. And if you guys ever need help, things like saying, or want something, feel free to reach out to me. I be both sides of the story all the time. But thank you. We appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Closing?
That was left. A rube is a slang term for a specific person in the rural area. Supposedly, we're not rubes, but we sure are being treated as rubes. The local citizens here, big old Marion County, they're anything but rubes. We've got chemistry teachers, we've got English teachers, we've got chemical operators, water techs, we've got long pipe fitters, boiler maintenance people, farmers, law enforcement people, mechanical engineers, graduated from roads, maintenance techs, we've got IT people, we've got coal miners, powerhouse workers, administrative people, we've got welders, we've got people that dealt with the hazardous disposal VX, we've got fabricators, we've got machine operators, we've got accountants, nurses, banking personnel, professors, dentists, lawyers, and researchers. But most of all, we got people with common sense. WDR, we've got politicians, we've got Wall Street investors, we've got companies involved that have been sued, paying huge fines for illegal work.
Thank you. Anyway, I just want to say, okay. You might go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to clarify on the environmental issue, on the right one thing. You said that, I just want to clarify, you said that number 8, changing property, all property, it's also on the number 9, it says change and pasture. Also, they can raise animals and crop production, so I've heard that, we have cattle herd, we have sheep herd, and chicken crops, you got beans, corn, so, as, that's what my question was. If somebody has been living in the country with their healthy needs, and the farmer, and there's a way, I've talked online, and changing, and we do, find and, so all the things can change. And he is allowed without what he said they have to do, they need to make sure, kind of come up. But from what I understood, as I read it, it's just changing it, and we need to get so that was, and we said they don't want to change crops or animals, but they might be bringing some animal crops, this is how I'm understanding it, that they can't change some animal crops.
Yes, you can. Because they have right days, which goes across to pasture, and vice versa. So we're monitoring what they still do today. But what this does say is they change to define people. We are only recognizing pasture in crops, not by people. They define people, they still don't have to
Thank you.
Okay. Big one, big girl.
Make a second motion.
Let's say thank you for attending, and this is your report, and you're welcome.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone?
Got a sign for me.